Hello, African world. Welcome to the Cosmic Cowrie Shellcast, where we discuss sci-fi, fantasy, and other genre tropes from a revolutionary Pan-African and socialist perspective. I'm Sir Junior, and tonight on episode 2, we have a pre-recorded review of the Marvel Disney Plus series Ironheart, starring Dominique Thorne about a young Black woman genius who takes on the mantle of Iron Man. As usual, like, share, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on Ironheart in the comments, and enjoy the show.
So I'm thinking, and I kind of want to shift back in to the fantastical world for a second, because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking if it is, and maybe this would be our kind of shift to Ironheart, but this was the first thing that always bugged me about that story, which was she had this huge drive to build something, and it wasn't even like she was trying to build something for people. She was just it was a machine, and she oh, I want to build an Iron Man suit because Iron Man did it. And she had all these other technological advances, but they were still late on the electric bill. And that or they were, drying clothes in the shitty washer and dryer that came in their unit. That part never made sense to me, because I think on top of the fact that if we do something to the extent of completely rewriting the rules of our current status quo, I think that before we fight, what are we going to do when we get there, we also have to fight the menticide that doesn't have us there in the first place. A lot of black excellence to me is another byproduct of capitalistic individualism. Mm-hmm. And that's the first fight I believe that black people have to fight against before we're I build this great, the idea of I built this great machine, I deserve to profit off of it, I deserve to, that's all of these capitalistic ideas rather than, and I think that's 9 times out of 10, we're thinking of all these times the American government and the Russians and all these other people would immediately attack us, but I think before that happens, you usually have the menticide stopping them from thinking this way in the first place.
Yes, that's interesting. I could see the menticide in the Ironheart story, the fact that her mom house was still, needed to have electricity, but she was off building the suit or whatever. That's her aspiring for property, intellectual property, over recognizing where she's at. So it's kind of the idea of success as coming through validation of these universities or whatever is a distraction from her recognizing the real life things that need to go on. She could have been instead just rewiring it so that there was a new generator or something that wasn't reliant on the power company, or even just create free it up for the entire block or whatever, so that's interesting to me, kind of the menticide in that I recognize is that the idea, the image of success that people who have engineers and whoever who have a lot of energy to give to these to building these incredible inventions, whatever, can be distracted by the image of success that has been implanted or wholesomeness.
Yeah, I was thinking about Dexter's Laboratory, growing up watching Dexter's Lab, growing up watching Family Matters with Steve Urkel, who is actually probably a whole nother person to bring up for this show. Yeah, he was always making stuff for himself, the Winslows, Dexter's Laboratory. He was always making stuff for his mom to clean up around the house, and of course it would go wrong in the episode and he'd have to destroy some vacuum robot that he created. But either way, he was always using his intellect to try to improve his life. And yeah, you're right, she never even thought about it. It never came up hey, let me just rewire this so that we don't have to pay an electric bill. It would have been pretty easy. And I think we should ask the question of why was she not written to do that? And all of these other white characters, every other white genius, going back to Weird Science. I mean, I could just name off so many shows of a white kid genius that creates gadgets for their parents, you know. And she didn't create anything like that.
Like, she's the Iron Man legacy character. And even there, and Iron Man is characterized, now it's funny because Iron Man is characterized as like a selfish, and it's told that his delusions of grandeur of like bettering humanity is a front to his own ego. But at least he's pretending like that she didn't even pretend. Like, it would have been one thing if they like reflected and it was like, oh, she's showing off by giving everybody free power. Like, that still could have been a character flaw. But instead, she was just, and many people were like, oh, it was unrealistic, but I don't even think it's unrealistic. I think it's very, think about the how many Black kids who grew up in the hood or just impoverished are like, I can't wait to get a Lambo or whatever car is popular. I'm not a car guy. I don't know what car is popular right now, but like, I can't wait to get a Lambo. Not, I can't wait till we can get a better place. And some people buy a new car for their mom or a new car or a new house, but it's always just like consumer, let's just get up in this capitalistic world, or let's just get more. And like, not even more. Here's a great example. I forgot what rapper, I think it was like Young Thug. It was either Young Thug, it was some rapper, and they were doing like all his favorite food. And his favorite food was like ramen, you know, and which is fine. But he was also talking about how like, oh, I love to get like Twinkies and I love to get like ramen and things like that. And there was never an idea to like elevate even your like way of eating. If you've noticed that, like if you notice like a lot of rappers or anything like that, that health isn't really an issue. It's just more of the same. And I think that is a pseudo form. I don't want to sound like an elitist. I definitely am not. I definitely, you know, I had a Twinkie, you know, in a fit of rebellion because I grew up eating. But like in a fit of rebellion, I had a Twinkie, and they're great. But just like you know, it's not something that I just kept on getting and I kept on wanting. It's something I feel like there is an idea of leveling up. Instead, it's gluttony instead of pride, if that makes sense.
And I think to your point, like to build on that, it's something I always think about, that one of the biggest changes in my life, especially coming out of the hood, like growing up with the projects, was the idea and understanding that things can be better. And it's what you're talking about, Aromo. Because like one of the things of menticide is that Black people in this country are trained, and I use that word specifically, not educated. We are trained and conditioned to settle for our conditions, settle for our oppression, to settle for the way our community looks, settle for us not having resources, anything like that. We're just like conditioned to settle for our health and just accept like, oh, you know, we said the thing 23, so I've reached my life expectancy. That is something we are settling in. So I think just like having this understanding that, oh wait, my life can be better. I have the right to like get more rest, to eat better food, to like be healthy. I think that's what I hear, not the elitism, because I definitely get that that's not what you're talking about. It's more about how are we treating ourselves? Like, do we know that things can be better, things can improve? And I think to the, you know, Ironheart point, like she really did seem to just settle with, even with having this power and access to technology, it was still kind of like, okay, the only thing I can do is get cash money, become the greatest, you know, become a billionaire, and that's it. Definitely not like an expansive idea of what could be done with that talent.
What's funny is that there was a scene where her homeboy, like she got like her, I think it's her love interest, but she got the guy like new wireless headphones. And in my mind, I immediately thought, why hadn't you built him like hyper tech headphones like years ago? Like that should have been like one of the first things you did, just to even test out the sound system in your suit. And instead of building it or even getting a chance to build it or send him something, you went and bought him the newest, hottest headphones, which I know you could build something better. And that was weird to me. And she bought a bunch of people gifts. I think it was the first time she got the money from the first like job. And she bought people all these technological gifts. And I'm like, you're a tech genius. Why did you, it's like a cook going to buy you McDonald's. Like, why didn't you use your skill that you could have made something infinitely better? It was a weird choice.
I thought there was definitely a difference, like you're saying, between the way they wrote her as a genius and the way they've written other geniuses. She'd use this term revolutionizing safety at one point. Like, I guess the impetus behind the suit is that her family members die in like kind of a tragic incident, and they die before the ambulance can get there. So she has this whole idea that the suit will be kind of like a new kind of safety and EMT kind of a tool. So she has this term revolutionizing safety, which like caught my ear like in the early episodes, is like another way that they are appropriating kind of Black liberation language. Post 2014, post 2020, I think there's still a lot of juice that the culture feels like they have, like to get behind at least the Black aesthetic of freedom, like an aesthetic of liberation. And I think that a lot of that show really like tried to play around that. And yet they are like further away from Wakanda. Like they're like more, she didn't have, there's no like poster of like a Black liberation figure. I don't think like anybody in her family made any references to like any Black leaders or Black history. There was no like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King Jr. picture anywhere. So it seems like Marvel has really like started to distance themselves from any idea of like Black politics, and instead is just like, okay, we'll have a Black aesthetic. And I think there was like stuff they did really well in the show to that point. Like it felt very Black, like her Black family support was really real. The way they kind of interacted with each other, and yet just kind of like divorced from all those other elements of our culture.
And I think that's more dangerous. It was more dangerous that they got the feeling of Blackness right, because now it feels Black, so it connects with Black people more. And so this kind of individualistic ideology is now more palpable, it's more tasteful to us because of the Black coding that they did so well. And this is another Marvel example, but I don't know if you guys have seen the new Captain America movie, Brave New World.
Not yet.
It's not worth it. I didn't watch the whole thing. I like skipped through it. It's so bad. But it's interesting, like one of the, spoiler alert, I guess, but one of the main story points is like the Sam Wilson, the Falcon, new Captain America. He has his like mentor gets brainwashed through something, and he ends up attacking the president. And the people are like, "Oh, take him into jail." Da 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 da. Like, we had to take him to jail. He attacked the president. We have to lock him up. And then he goes to the president. He's like, "Can you please unlock my friend, or I'm going to do this?" And it made me think about the Winter Soldier, the same kind of storyline in Captain America: Winter Soldier, where he had no proof. He didn't know, right? He didn't know his friend. He didn't have any like proof that it could have been like brainwashing or anything like that. He just saw his friend and immediately defected from the government and went AWOL. And it was funny that like the white Captain America went AWOL at the drop of a dime, and the Black Captain America is trying to do things the right way. And that's, Marvel, and this is the first thing the Black Captain America does. And in the Captain America Winter Soldier, he's doing things the right way. And every Black, it's funny because you see in most Black media, like Black superhero media, they're doing things by the book. John Stewart Green Lantern is more, he follows the Green Lantern's code more. Black Lightning tries to become the mayor. It's Black Captain America is following the rules. And every single white superhero at the drop of a dime is like, to hell with the whole system, we're out. Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
They stubbed their toe on the stop sign.
That is so annoying. Like, even in the Ironheart, like I remember, like I think at the second episode there was like a cop or something, and she was like, um, what is the guy's name? Like with the hood?
Parker.
I think.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
like he was like redirecting the bullet, and she was like, "No, don't!" Like trying to save the cop. Like
Yeah.
seeing that type of stuff. Like
it feels very much like Black people calm down, do things the right way, and it's weird that they have this story, and it's only like you would think that they like at least maybe all superheroes follow this line of thinking, but even like I'm gonna go deep dive because I know so many Black like, but even like Batman's Batwing, like Lucius Fox, he worked with the cops, and he's like, you know, the Signal works during the day, and he works with cops, and this is the Bat family who are like known for being, you know, very angry and like vicious, and it's just so it's like blatant that there's I can't now that I think about it, I can't think of a mainstream Black fictional character that kind of goes AWOL on a regular basis. I'm
wasn't
trying to
in Black Panther? Wasn't it like T'Challa? Like, but he was like the villain, kind of like he was
Killmonger, right? The villain.
Oh no, Killmonger.
It's usually the villain. It's usually the villain, and it's like there's always this idea of like he had the right idea, he just took it too far.
Right.
You know, like they just he wanted freedom, but he didn't.
He didn't do
you
it
know, curtsy and ask.
Yeah.
Right, and there's always a right way. There's never any way is the right way for colonialism, but you have to make sure you get revolution just right, otherwise you don't deserve it, and that's purity politics that I have always hated in real life and in comics.
Yeah, it's very annoying, like very just making Black people docile, like just turn the other cheek or whatever. Like, yeah, it's very frustrating.
And it's always been a thing, and it's fun. And another level of like this, they don't believe their own message, and you can tell that by I've mentioned a few like right before we recorded that X-Men were used, like the X-Men and the mutants were used as an allegory for like for Black people and like oppressed groups, and in story Black people, like X-Men mutants, said, to hell with it. Like, let's just use our powers to control our own sovereign nation and fuck it. You know, like we're just gonna, I think I have the House of M comic. I do. Okay. In the House of M comic, like even Professor X, who's meant to be Martin Luther King, he's like, to hell with it. I'm going to use my mental capacity, use my powers. We're going to create our own space. And we're done with trying to play nice. We're done with trying to do this the right way. We're taking our own spot. And if you come here, we'll shoot you with our lasers. And you know, so they don't believe their own message. Yet Black Panther's still in Wakanda, being very nice and docile and giving to what you need. If you need anything, I got you. Anybody who wants some vibranium, Orson wants some vibranium. Vibranium. Like it's.
So one example of a Black character that basically like gets powers or uses their genius immediately to help Black people and is then called a villain is the original Black Manta. So this was so Iron Man's major villain in the 60s was Black Manta, and so his origin story was that he confronted the racism of the surface world by having this thing that he was going to like move all these Black people and like into the sea and take power there. And of course, I've always looked at it as like one of the best kind of Black stories because it's really realistic, because like he's a villain. To us, he would be a hero, yet to like their sensibilities, like that would be a villain, like a Black person who used their powers to essentially just help us to only think about the Black well-being would be a supervillain. And of course they like that was DC, like not Marvel yet. They backed off of it and retconned it into something different. Yeah, I think that's a thing that any mainstream comic company or just, you know, now even film company with Marvel is just going to struggle with. Like, I don't know that they could really show a character that was pro Black liberation and Pan Africanist that wasn't a villain according to the status quo. I think like that, yeah, that would be hard. Not to say that now this isn't to let them off the hook. Like, I think that, you know, there's definitely still a lot to criticize. So yeah, I think with like Ironheart, it like, do we want to talk like the acting, anything like that? Like that was good.
But I guess I'll start and just go. Like we said before, they were able to capture like South Side Chicago feeling. Like it felt organic. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel hammed up. It felt like an actual Black family. The mother's care and like the fact that she didn't fully understand, but she was like, "I'm still your mother. What are you doing?" Like that wasn't. It was well executed. It was well done. I think the acting was also well executed and well done to like an extent. I wasn't the biggest fan of the rest of the gang that was there. Like I don't even remember their names. That's how much they were kind of forgettable. But like the rest of the Hood's gang, I wasn't particularly interested in. But the main character's acting was well done, and the main cast and the familial acting was well done. I also liked the magic, like the little magic family. I don't know if everybody's gotten there, but the little magic side note of it, I found that interesting. I really like that piece of it.
Yeah, I still have to get there, like all the way to the end, but so far I do like the acting and stuff too, like how there's like a diversity of characters, you know, and it is like I like, you know, the main character to like her emotions and stuff, like she's pretty cool. How like her best friend comes through as an ancestor, I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, I know, you know, it's like expected that it's probably not going to be, you know, that it's not going to be a radical show or whatever, but it is really good basis to like analyze all these things we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that it was really cool, like the way they showed her family and how that supported her as a character. Like you know, this isn't going to spoil too much yet. She has to like recreate the suit, and they use the dad's car, like parts of the dad's car, like that. That's just like very cool. I think like I liked the acting a lot, and yeah, I always like to see the Marvel projects like this because like, you know, we got a Black director, we have like, you know, Black cast, and hopefully it's a jumping off point for them. So Shanaka Hodge is the director and screenwriter, so hopefully she does some cool stuff. And yeah, I'm not necessarily expecting a whole lot these days, like of a radical perspective. So, you know, listeners, we will probably often have a lot of criticisms for the show's themes. Yeah, we'll try to point out something we like about it too.
So about the radicalism, my position on that, I don't think, especially from Marvel, I'm not waiting for them to bring us Malcolm X in an iron suit. Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen. However, and this is just in movies in general. However, one part that I didn't like, that I feel like they could have ran with, was that movies have been running with recently, such as Don't Look Up and The Menu, was their criticism on capitalism. Because initially the Hood was like, oh, these like we're going to go and we're going to take away from the rich and we're going to, you know, feed ourselves and help our communities because they have all this money and they just hoard it. That was his original, like that was what he first said. And of course he ended up just being like not to spoil too much, but he's just that wasn't his real motivation. He was a slimy character who just wanted his own power. Mm-hmm. But I hate when that is done a lot, and it's also done to the effect with Killmonger and with other characters. But even in it's like a knock on socialism, Like, oh, you see, this guy didn't actually want to help the community. He just wanted money for stuff, which is what capitalism is. So you're telling me that because this guy lied about socialism, that's something to count against socialism. I don't know, but I feel it's just weird to me because that is the topic that a lot of movies to be edgy recently have been like, oh, capitalism is terrible. Look at like the capitalists. Like that's been a thing since Hunger Games. Mm-hmm. They've been able to kind of let fly and let loose their opinions of capitalistic positions. And Ironheart walked it back in a way that I think I know the reason why. If it's a white woman taking down capitalism, then yeah, just like in the menu, and don't look up. But you want us to let a black woman come and dismantle, like, no, we're not doing that. And not just a black woman, but like a colored group to come. That. Yeah. So, but that's something that I noticed. And while, like Sir said, we're not going to, like, they're not going to be Malcolm X, but you could at least be Bernie Sanders. Like, I don't know, like, it's not, you don't have to be full. Capitalism is great. Like, I think we're past that.
Definitely.
So let's wrap up our ideas of Ironheart and its overall.
Yeah.
Really, what's Ironheart's overall effect on the Black community? Like, what do you think? Is this going to be a net positive for absorption of Black media? Do you think it's going to be a net negative? What impact do you think it's going to have on not only adults and Marvel fans watching it, but like children? Because it is a children's show. It's going to be like some 10-year-old girl who's getting introduced to Ironheart. Like, how do you think? What effect will it give?
So I don't know how much of there is to take away from it. I hope that, like, I think the character of Riri is interesting. I like the idea of a person like her in multiple different ways. Like, so a young Black person, a woman, a person with like an interesting story about how she became Ironheart. I like her taking over the Iron Man mantle versus just like handing it to, like, I don't know, like if Tony Stark had a kid or something like that. So hopefully, like, there's some good that the character can develop into from here. It did end on a note that maybe it's supposed to be alluding to the fact that she's been making the wrong decisions. So like maybe next season will be better.
This is, for a rare time, to be actually positive, because I think one of the best things that Ironheart does is it gives little Black girls something to dress up as that isn't a white princess. Like, that's always a win. And I also think that Ironheart is better than her comic counterpart in terms of Black understanding, because in the comics, Ironheart gets, like, Iron Man leaves a Tony Stark AI, and that's what helps her build the suit. And she, and everybody's like, she had help, like, so the fact that she did this, she kind of got it out of the mud. I'm happy that that's how she did it. And like, so I think that, the beauty of kind of being cursed with this, like, looking for double meaning, and what this means in a lot of media is that I don't think the average watcher, especially like young women or young men or anybody who's young Black people watching it, is going to see that, like, oh, this is a capitalistic individual. They saw Iron Man, and Iron Man was Black this time. And I think that's, helpful, especially if they get to see Iron Man and Iron Man was Black this time, and then maybe somebody else can install anti-capitalist ideas, maybe either family at home or just a media system that isn't connected to Disney. Maybe BET can get on some Black liberation. I know they won't, but like, maybe we can get a Black liberation cartoon on BET.
Yeah.
So I think
it does ultimately like feed into the status quo, right? Like the aspirations that are like promoted in it. But yeah, it's cool to see, like, it's that like representation politics type thing, like where it's not the end all be all. It's like it's a piece of art, you know, and we don't really need to. Well, at least for me, I'm like, it's something to watch, but it's like there's limitations to like judging it as like good or bad. It's just, you know, it's part of the propaganda, like so many other things.
I think it's part of the propaganda, but it's enjoyable, and I think that it, you know, while I don't think representation is super important for the overall revolution, I do think that for young formative years, it helps. I think for younger people, it's nice to not always see, like early 2000 Black girls had to stare at, you know, Bella Thorne and Twilight get fight over and be called the beautiful woman on earth. And I think that, you know, to have something that isn't that for once is very important for formative years. I don't think it's going to save us from you know, Eurocentricity, but I do think it's helpful.
I hear you.
I agree. All right, that is our review of Ironheart season 1. And thanks for listening, and folks, of course, like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. Make sure to do, because it keeps this whole thing going. So like go to AfricanWorldOrder.com, at African World Order, all that stuff, like support us, and we will be able to make more content, make more shows, and do more liberation making. So yeah,
we'll be here every Tuesday. It'll either be a pre-recorded like we've had today, or we'll be a live. We'll iron out the kinks as we go forward. But every Tuesday is going to be the time to catch the three of us.
Thank you.
All right, African World, we will see you next time.
Peace.